I'm Willie. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. And what we're going to go over in this video is the top 5, which I would probably consider the top 5 Windows command line troubleshooting tools that you'll use as a network person. And I just want to mention before we get too far, because I'm sure people will blow the comments up, these tools also work on Linux and Mac OS. However, the syntax may be a little different and the command may be a little different. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Also, sorry about the lighting. My Wi-Fi network is on the fritz, so we're making some changes, so sorry about the lighting. But I've got the command prompt open. You can see the tabs there. So the first one we're going to talk about is ping. And what ping is going to do is it's literally just going to reach out and touch a device, and it's going to let us know if it's online. So I'm going to ping my gateway, and you can see it's sending 32 bytes. The trip time is 5 milliseconds, 1 millisecond, 4 milliseconds, 3 milliseconds. It gives us a minimum, a maximum, and an average down at the bottom. Now, if I'm troubleshooting something and I want to reboot it or unplug it, make sure that it is going down or rebooting. I'm waiting while something's rebooting. I can add a -T or a -T to the end of that. And what that's going to do is that in Windows, it's just going to keep the ping running. Now, like in Linux, if you run the ping command until you break it, it's going to ping. So you don't have to have the -T. And you can do all sorts of things with this command. Let's see. So if you just do a /?, you can see all the command line switches. You can change the size of the echo. You can do all kinds of stuff. Change the TTL, and you can change the count. You can do all kinds of things. You can also pipe this out to a text file. So you could run this overnight and pipe all the output out to a text file and take a look at it tomorrow or the next day or whenever. So ping, whenever we're trying to see if a host is alive or if we can get to a host, ping is a very useful tool. It's very quick. However, depending on how your internal firewall rules are set up, let's say you're trying to ping across a site-to-site VPN and Windows Firewall is enabled on the host, there's a good chance maybe you won't be able to ping a host on the other side. So you do kind of have to have some of the other pieces of the puzzle to put it together with this. All right, the next tool we're going to talk about is tracert, and in Windows it's actually tracert, T-R-A-C-E-R-T. Now in Linux and Mac OS, you actually type out traceroute. So we can do our same question mark here, and we can do IP version 4, IP version 6. You can do that with a ping too. And one of the commands that I typically use with this is the -D, because if you don't, it's going to try to do an nslookup or resolve what the host name is for each IP address in the hop. So what this is going to do is this is going to look at each hop along the way to a destination. So if we do this and we go let's just do 1.1.1. You can see, boom, boom. And it'll just keep going, and it's going to tell us how long until it gets to where we want to be, what the time is to get there. And this will give us an indication if there's any problems on the way to our destination. The next one is ipconfig. Now, in Linux and Mac, depending on which versions you're on, you can have on the newer versions of at least Ubuntu, you have to install NetTools to get like ifconfig, which would kind of be the same as ipconfig. But this one's ipconfig, and you can do a short version, or you can do a long version, which will give you more information. And if you want to have a break in there, you do ipconfig/all space pipe space more, and then it's going to break it, and then you'll have to hit your spacebar. Spacebar will go a page at a time, enter will go a line at a time. So you can see my connection specific DNS suffix is williehow.com. This is the NIC. This is the MAC address. It's getting it from DHCP. Here's my link local IP version 6. And we are getting an IP version 4 address. Here's our subnet mask. Here's when the lease was obtained, expires, default gateway, DHCP server, and our DNS server. So if you're ever troubleshooting why things don't work, take a look. This is another useful tool because then you can start pinging or doing nslookups or things like that. The next tool we're going to look at that does work on all three of the operating systems we talked about is netstat. And what netstat's going to do, if we do a netstat-a, is it's going to show us all of the current open connections on the network. And so we can start seeing what is going on in the background. So a lot of times if you're working with tech support of software and things like that, and they want to know if things are connecting correctly, they'll have you run a netstat. And then the last tool we're going to talk about real quick, and we're going to do a few more of these troubleshooting toolkit videos because I think it's very important that you have a base level of troubleshooting tools in your toolkit. And yes, this software is tools that is in your toolkit as long as you know how to use it. And we're going to get into physical tools and building that toolkit. I can show you the tools, I can show you how I use them, and you'll have to come up with your own methodologies and things like that. Because in actually troubleshooting a network, depending on the problem, I'm always going to check layer 1 or the physical layer, right? Are my cables and connectors and ports good? That's usually where I'm going to start. Once I know that, then I'm going to move into the logical arena, which is more of these commands. But nslookup, what it's going to do is it's going to do basically a DNS query. So we can do this same question mark, and let's say that I want to look up weather.gov because I want to know what the IP address is for weather.gov. Now, you're probably not going to necessarily need to know that, but you may need to look up the IP address of an internal server or something else that you have the fully qualified domain name for. So I would look that up. It's going to hit my DNS server, which is obviously my UDR for now, and it's going to query that. And if the UDR doesn't have a record for that, it's going to go out either to the root name servers or to some other DNS server that it knows about, and it's going to ask. And that's how we can perform these lookups. You can see it comes back weather.gov. It gives me the IP version 6 addresses, and then I have an IP version 4. Now, if I'm not happy, maybe the DNS server is broken or I want to query someone else's DNS server, I can do an nslookup weather.gov, and then over here I can specify a DNS server. So, and you can see that I went out, instead of to my server, I went to dns.google, and it spit back a different address. I'm assuming that weather.gov is probably behind some load balancers, or they're doing something with IP addressing because they get a ton of traffic. We can also come back here and we can go to 1.1.1.1, and you can see we even got a more differenter IP address then. But this is helpful when you're looking up IP addresses for things you may not know. And a lot of companies will actually use fully qualified domain names even internally because it's easier for people to remember than IP addresses, especially as your network scales. So we try to attribute everything to an FQDN. That way we don't have to memorize IP addresses because it's much more convenient to remember pizza.hut instead of 23.252.16, and I'm just making this up, 42. The other thing that happens is hosts also can share IP addresses. So multiple web servers and things like that can share it. And so then when you actually query something or you use a web browser to get to something by name, it actually uses a header that has that FQDN in it to return to you at your computer the correct website. So continue to build your skill set. If there's other tools that you use more than these 5, put them down in the comments. If there's tools you've got questions about, put those down in the comments. But know that I am doing more of these building your skill set, your troubleshooting toolbox videos. And I think what I'm going to do in the next one is I'm going to go over some other basic command lines that I use all the time, because I probably spend 50% of my time in the command line, whether it's Windows, Linux, Mac OS, whether it's in a router, switch, firewall. I spend a lot of time in the command line because I can get a lot of things done a lot quicker, get a lot more information at my fingertips, and do a lot of troubleshooting really quick. So if you've got any questions about these tools, put them down in the comments. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and share. Follow me on Twitter and TikTok. Those links are down below, along with affiliate links, a Patreon link. And if you need IT consulting, head on over to williehowe.com. Fill out the contact form right there on the front page, and someone will be in touch with you as soon as possible. If you want to come help us build our community where we're compiling these types of things in a forum format, head on over to community.williehowe.com and sign up today. Once again, I'm Willie. I want to thank you for being here. I apologize for the lights. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.